Good evening. I would like to call to order the Architectural Review Board regular meeting of Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. First, if we could please do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will do the swearing in of new, what's that? Oh, I'm sorry. First, roll call.
Larson? Here. Schneider?
Here?
Howard?
Here. Okay. No, now the pledge. Sorry, bye-bye.
Sorry about that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next we will come off the dais and have the mayor swear in our new ARB members. So. Or the clerk, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, happy you can both come on up here. And I'm gonna say aye, and then you're gonna say your name, and then everything else you'll repeat after me, okay? And hold up your right hand. I. Do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States of America. And the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me
I will faithfully discharge all the duties incumbent upon me
as a Town of Haymarket Architectural Review Board member,
as the Town of Haymarket Architectural Review Board member,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations. Okay, great. Go ahead, have a seat up on the dais.
Congratulations, new ARB members. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Stacy and Ben, would you guys mind doing a quick, sort of quick background and how long you've been in the town and stuff like that?
Sure. Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
I'm Stacy Curran. We have lived here, gosh, I think almost 21 years now. And I'm previous military, and so we moved around from Indiana. My husband's from New York, and all my kids were raised here.
Okay.
Never been flown the coop, and I've lived in Green Hill Crossing the whole time. So it's a great little town. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you. And Ben?
My name is Ben Barbin. We moved to the Town of Haymarket in 2019, right before the birth of my second daughter, and originally from Pennsylvania.
Okay. And you have an background in architecture?
Architectural engineering, yes.
Okay. And Stacy, you have a background in
Design.
design. Okay. Great assets to have on our team, so I appreciate you guys volunteering and being a part. So, any other questions of our new staff, our new ARB members? Okay.
Schneider.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we move citizens' time up before the appointment of the chair?
Sure.
Since we have a dignitary here.
Any objections to moving up citizens' time? No? Okay. If we could go to citizens' time next, please. No?
Good evening. I like to do this during citizens' time, even though I am up here representing as mayor. I like to welcome new members to any of the commissions or boards that we have. I started a program in which we do show some type of recognition. So I'd like to read a letter that I've put together for both Ms. Curran and Mr. Barbin. The letter says, congratulations, your application for the ARB was reviewed by the town council and you have been appointed to be a sitting member for the term of, and your terms, it looks like both are the same, September 19th to June 30th of 2026 and 2023. Current is 23, yours is 2026. As the mayor of the town of Haymarket, I'd like to thank you for volunteering and accepting the civic responsibilities endowed to you as a sitting member. As a town citizen, I am sure your goal is to do what is best for the town. In some cases, there will be differences of opinions requiring courage and conviction to make your decision. I support you and will encourage you to stand tall because conflicts like these create the dialogue necessary to make the best decisions, making our town better. At the end of the term, I hope you reflect on your time volunteering for the town of Haymarket and feel your contributions have made a difference bettering our town. I believe they will have. Thank you. What I'd like to do is give you this letter and also a little token that you can frame if you would like something. So, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Larson. Okay. Anybody else here for citizens' time? Okay. Next, we go to the appointment of chair and vice chair. First is the nomination of a chairperson. Can we have a nomination of a chairperson, please?
Yes, I would like to move to nominate Marchant Schneider as chairman.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Do we need to take a formal vote?
Yes, if there's any more nominations.
I'm sorry, are there any more nominations for chairman? Chairperson, excuse me. Okay.
Then, the motion is to appoint Mr. Schneider as chair of the ARB, and, since there are no other nominations, then you're appointed by default, but I do need a roll call vote on that.
Okay.
So, Barbin?
Aye.
Say, Larson?
Aye.
Schneider?
Yes?
Howard?
Yes.
Corinne?
Current, yes.
Curran. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Next, nomination of a vice chairperson. Could I have a nomination of a vice chairperson, please? Okay, I would nominate Ben Barbin for vice chairperson. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, are there any other nominations for vice chairperson? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, do you need a roll call vote?
Roll call vote on, Mr. Barbin as vice chair. Barbin?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Curran.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry to put you through that on the first meeting, but we've not met since July, so appreciate it. So, okay, next on our agenda is the minute approval of the June 15th, 2022 Architectural Review Board meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes for the Architecture Review Board regular scheduled meeting, June 15, 2022.
We have a second? A second?
I second.
Okay. Motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the minute approval? Seeing none, okay, we'll go ahead and
All in
take,
favor?
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion will pass. 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 now. 5-0. Great. Thanks, everybody. Okay, moving right along. Agenda items. Our first agenda item is demolition permit request for 14997 Walter Robinson Lane. Emily has provided us a report and the applicant's materials. Emily, could you please go through the proposal?
Yes, so tonight we have before us the demolition request for 14997 Walter Robinson Lane. This is an older structure that sits to the west of Jefferson Street as you pass over the bridge over I-66 on the north side. It is semi-visible as you're going slow if you know what you're looking for when you look over there. Again, this is an older home that's set here for quite some time. It is not listed currently on our local historic inventory list in the town. So tonight we're reviewing the application, everything that was presented, considering the different architectural style that it currently, adds for the town. I will point out one thing, based on our comprehensive plan, this is on packet page 8, middle of the page, we do look at if this was a potential archaeological site, sorry, I'm messing that word all up. And if it is, we do take that into consideration. It is flagged in the comprehensive plan that this area, site number 4, is east and west of Jefferson Street, north of I-66. Things that we would be looking for are A, possible encampment sites from the Civil War period, and B, possible location of town's old trash disposal site. One of the ways that this can be handled and discussed is when the applicant, if approved, gets their demolition permit and they start construction, they tear the house down and they start the construction for the new neighborhood. They are required anyway, if they come across anything as they're digging, that they do have to notify the appropriate parties, so we would be notified. But I just wanted to call that item out. Again, this is the only information right now that was put in the comprehensive plan. We could do a little bit more research on that, but I wanted to call that out for everybody. So if you flip through the packet pages, you have, and kind of for our new members, I'll just kind of explain. In the report, you'll have all of the requirements. You'll have the zoning ordinance reference here for the Old and Historic Haymarket District Overlay chapter. So that's right there at your fingertips for you to look at. And then especially on the demolition applications, you will have at packet page 13, that section 58-16.12, the demolition review and approval. And so those are the items that we will be going through and discussing. So I've given staff responses on those items. We also have here, though, tonight the applicant to introduce and talk about the project that they are going to be completing back in this section of the town, answer your questions, go through the report that was provided, as well as talk about the asbestos survey report that they submitted, location, etc. So that everyone's aware, this area of town, back in 2005, I believe it was, they started a site plan for a single-family home development, Robinson's Paradise. It was shelved for some time, and it's been recently brought back up. So we're working to update that site plan that had already gone through. Because of its shelf life, it was not current still. So we have worked through that in an administrative and planning commission capacity. We are nearing the point of its completion and final approval. And so that is why we're looking at this demolition. Typically, we do have this a lot earlier in the process. However, you know, this is a little bit more of a unique project where we're picking it up from quite some time ago. So at this point, I would like to invite the applicant up to speak to the board and introduce themselves, the project, answer any questions you may have, and then we can go through a discussion at that point.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Priya Tiwari, and this is Elia, and we're both here from D.R. Horton. Thanks, Emily, for kind of introducing the project. We're proposing to develop single-family homes that Emily mentioned on Robinson Lane. There is an existing built two-story house that's currently abandoned. That's a little under 3,000 square feet. I believe there's pictures on the within the asbestos report that was included. And as you can see, it's not in it's in very poor condition, and pretty much it's rotting and a danger to the community. And we would like to get a permit to potentially demo the building.
Okay, any other information or that you can share, or?
We conducted the asbestos treatment. A couple months ago, we did conduct the asbestos treatment, obviously, as we have the report. So it's, as far as on our end, it's pretty much ready to demo.
Okay. Board members, any questions regarding the structure or the background or the ordinance criteria, either of staff or of the applicant?
So no historical significance was found.
I think, wasn't it built in 1901? Didn't I see something like that? Or it's historic, or some, I thought there was something. to that
There's
effect.
generally, there's two criteria.
Yeah.
There's the age
The age.
and then the designation.
So we flagged it for the age that this structure is over the 50 years in age, based on when we found that it was built. So the oldest record I believe I had was 1901, possibly? Let me look. The county record didn't have an accurate date for it, but because of its age, the 50 or older, it was flagged as historic. However, it's not part of the inventory list that was created.
Other questions?
Locally, historic speaking, and these are, the stories you hear as you get to know people in the town, but the Robinson family owned a lot of property over here. Long before I-66 was completed, the Robinson family had large tracts of land. This is one of the original Robinsons of Haymarket. It was the grandmother's house, so Chuck Robinson, who has been in town for quite some time, he's one of the younger generations. He is the grandson. It was his grandmother's house. Several uncles and other family members had larger pieces of land around. Prior to the Divergent Diamond being built, there was also a family member who had a piece of land over there that upon his passing, it was then able to be acquired by VDOT in order to make that expansion. So they were a locally known family, very prominent in this area, attended, the local churches. A lot of them have been buried locally. So locally speaking, it's the Robinson family, and that's about as much history as I have on it currently. Certainly something in the past we've done is we reach out to the Relic Library and we try to build a portfolio the best we can of these properties. If there's anything that pops up on their end for anything that's historic, whether it be newspaper clippings, things that, are triggered in their searches. So we can always do that, so we have those on file and can document it the best we can so that if it is approved for demo, we still have that local history we can refer back to in the future.
I think, looking at the demolition guidelines, is it section, 6, part A, where it talks about special instructions for historic structures? It says about providing a written statement explaining the reasons for demolition, and it just seems like it's in poor condition. Is the justification for the demolition, is that correct?
Well, it's more of a nuisance too, because if you look, I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I've seen the photo.
Yeah, it's more of a nuisance too, because it's been boarded up, in addition to being in poor condition. I just don't think it's, beneficial to the neighborhood to have.
I think a good part of the first floor is rotted out, so even walking inside of it is a huge safety risk. In my experience building houses, it's beyond salvageable.
I mean, have we had a structural engineer come in and assess the house at all? Look at, because I mean, it just seems like we have, this abatement survey, this abatement report, and I mean, if it's old enough, I mean, I think, we should try and preserve some of our town's history if possible.
I would argue, just in my experience, it's unsafe to even conduct a survey. That's, just my opinion personally.
I believe even when a geotech consultant went in, he was mentioning from his team that they had to be careful when they were conducting the testing on it.
Yeah,
We didn't have a structural engineer go, but we did have a geotechnical engineer go. We had the abatement work done, and then we had an archaeological consultant going too.
And does a geotech typically deal with structures and kind of weigh in on structural analysis structures, building structures?
Our engineer does, who has been there, just like our civil engineer. but not, our geotech consultant just did the soils testing on it.
So is there any rationale or inclusion of their assessment, your civil engineer or your structural engineer, within your application?
I don't have it written down as to what their opinion was, but I think it was kind of the conclusion was that it's not a building, or it's not salvageable at the point where it would make sense to keep it as is.
Anything else? You mentioned in your narrative, while other alternatives were explored, none were considered reasonable or feasible.
Yeah.
What were the other alternatives that you considered?
Yeah, so we had initially looked at redesigning, like when we were, the plans were pre-approved back in 2007. So they were, the plans initially had the building demo too, like from the previous plans. So we had looked at potentially moving the house, or kind of rearranging our plans that would keep the building, the house as is, but the current owner is not, Mr. Robinson who owned it, I don't think he has any reason to want to keep it as well, which is why it was part of his sale, to kind of sell it to us and kind of go demo it and kind of develop our plan accordingly.
So board members, we've had a couple of tools at our disposal. The last applications we had were for the bungalow and the firehouse. In those, and it's one of the recommendations in Emily's report is we do a site visit, just to be able to have eyes on and look at it. We have had in the past some description of the structural stability. So I would suggest if your engineer is able to do some sort of summary or write-up about the structural integrity, that would be helpful. The relic information, I forget what it's an acronym for, but it's basically our how would you describe it? In Manassas, they research a lot of the cultural history of Prince William County, and they're able to do deed searches and those sorts of things. And so that's one tool we've had in our toolbox, is to have that relic report as part of our analysis. Absent of a decision tonight, that would sort of be my recommendation. If we could look at a site visit next month, Emily, if you could work with staff to do the relic summary and the summary you talked about tonight with the Robinson family. If we're able to do the summaries, if they can do a one-page write-up or something like that. I think the distinguishing characteristic tonight is it's not part of our inventory, but it is considered historic. And as Emily said, we're trying to do our best to document, so that if we ever need to pull from that resource to relate to our future projects or any other sort of research, we have that available. We've not always had readily available documentation about the history of a lot of these buildings. We do note in the comprehensive plan that these structures do not have to have a state or national designation to be significant to the town, but it does say that these buildings, architectural styles, the methods of construction, those do contribute to how the town has evolved over time. So documenting that to be able to accomplish that. So if the board is so inclined to support the demolition permit, the last application had conditions regarding photographic documentation prior to demolition, offering both of the outside and highlighting any unique architectural features, methods of construction, also documentation of the interior. Some of your photographs do that, but some of them don't necessarily capture the architecture. There was also an option if there is architectural salvage. A lot of these older buildings have some of the more valuable trusses and those sorts of things that someone may be able to use. That's at the board's option. If the board is not comfortable supporting the demolition after we get this information, then if the board does deny it, then the applicant has the ability to appeal to the town council to review that decision as well. So that being said, any objections to maybe setting up a site visit next month, asking for the additional analysis, asking for the site visit, any relic information, any issues or
The only
concerns?
comment I'm going to make is the sun sets at 6:26 p.m. on the night of our next meeting, so consider what time the board would need to meet to see it in the daylight. when you said that.
Is 5:30 too early for all of us? Anybody?
No.
Okay. So how that would work, we would open our meeting here, or we would meet on site?
Ideally, we would just open the meeting here, call it to order, and then we go into a recess, walk over there, complete our meeting. We'll take notes as we do for minutes, and then we'd come back here and rejoin. We can then have a break between the meeting times, so everybody can go get dinner, and then come back and rejoin at 7 based on what we have on the agenda. And then for a further discussion, if the applicant returns that night.
Any objections to that plan? Okay. Any other information or background that the board would like to have for our next meeting? Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a spam call. Okay, then any questions that you have of us?
Yeah, no,
Any-
we will get, kind of what we talked about, we'll get
Mhm.
more of a written up from a structural engineer, just kind of get their opinion on it. Is that something that we would kind of deliver to you guys before the next meeting, so you have time to review it?
Yes, please.
Yes, yeah, you'll just send that over to me, and then ideally, we have all of that. If you could get it back to us as soon as possible, but at least one full week ahead of the meeting, that way we can get it in the agenda packet for them.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it, okay, we can do that. Thank you for your time.
Will you guys so are we going to proceed with the site visit on the 19th at 5:30?
Sure. Do you need me
October
to
19th.
make a motion or anything?
Yes, let's make a motion to defer the application and that we will have a site visit October 19th at 5:30 to look at the structure and follow up on the additional items that were requested.
Let me find the,
And will you
Appropriate.
guys be able to have someone on site, a representative? Okay.
we appreciate the fact that this is going to delay you, but we're striving to be consistent with how we evaluate these applications.
I just
Yes.
don't want to delay. Felt like the bungalow was delayed a little bit longer than it had to be, so.
I think we'll be fine. Next.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Is it the next meeting either gonna be a vote, like for us, should we expect that?
We're comfortable that
I
I
would
feel it
hope-
was an
Yeah.
information.
I would hope
next
so.
month, So,
Okay.
so, I think it is a little bit different, the fact that it's not a contributing structure. Typically, we've had more discussion when it's listed as one of our
Got it, yeah. we're good.
resources. So.
Okay.
Okay, trying to find the, okay, sorry. Trying to find the reference to do the motion. Wait a minute, I can touch these screens, I'm not used to this. Okay. I'll go ahead and make the motion if there's no objection. I move that the Architecture Review Board defer consideration of the demolition application request for 14997 Walter Robinson Lane to the October 19th Architecture Review Board meeting to include a site visit starting at 5:30 and a follow-up discussion at the ARB's regular meeting. Inclusive of that motion is some direction of staff, if we could have any available relic information regarding the structure or parties associated with the structure. Emily, if you're okay doing maybe a paragraph or two of the explanation that you provided this evening. And the applicant, if you could please, tonight you talked about the other alternatives, if you could provide that in your narrative. Also, any description of the structural status of the structure, or the structural condition of the building would be helpful, and then having any representatives on site that night for us to be able to consider. And then if staff, if you could prepare findings both for approval and denial for our next meeting, and I can help you with that if necessary. So, you're welcome. All in record. We're recording this, right? So, okay. Anything that we're missing on required information or anything else? Okay.
Is it possible to get your engine, like photographs
Yeah.
associated with your engineer's observations and recommendations? That way, you know, we can fully understand, and it's not just them, you know, saying off the cuff in a narrative. At least we have some sort of context.
Do you mean additional pictures of the building?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there is, you know, right, because normally an engineer will make some observations, and then based on their observations, they'll have some sort of discussion and recommendations, right? You know, justification for the recommendation. So I think it'd be helpful to kind of have some of their background rather than just say, you know, whether or not it's sound or unsound.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to kind of have the backup, right?
Okay, yeah. I think for certain parts of the structure that are damaged, they can go into detail as to why it is and, you know, why it is in poor condition.
The previous packets for demolition requests do have an example of a structural analysis with photographs, so that may be a good template for your engineer to use.
Okay,
So, and that's all available online. Just search the previous meeting agendas.
got it.
So, okay.
Still need a second on the motion.
Okay. Any second to
second.
that long motion? Second by Ms. Curran.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. That motion will pass 5-0. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Please be safe going home. So,
We'll see you guys October 19th.
okay. Next up, get to the first of the agenda, is old business. Emily, could you highlight our old business?
Yes, so old business, we have the Crossroads Village Center is going strong and hard on construction. We've seen a lot of the two multi-tenant buildings that are on the east side of the property come up, and soon in a couple weeks we'll have one that is on the left side of the main boulevard there. It'll be closer to where the Lidl is going to go. So Lidl will go in parking lot, and then at the front of that parking lot, you'll have that multi-tenant building. So we'll see that addition here very shortly. We do have one item that's going to be coming up for reconsideration or an amended application for the Crossroads Village Center, and that is the design of the townhomes. So the townhomes are going to be put in by Pulte, and they're requesting to do an amendment to their application that they previously had approved in November of 2018. So we're currently working with them on preparing the materials, submitting everything to be on the next meeting agenda for October 19th. So we're hopeful that will come up for our discussion, and then they'll be moving along there. Otherwise, everything's remained about the same on the architectural side of things for Crossroads. Across the street from that, these are just kind of updates also, since we do have some new members with us. The Aldi building, so that was the old Food Line, and they divided it down the half. So the Planet Fitness will be going in on the right-hand side of Aldi, and they're currently working on interior construction. And so at our next October 19th meeting, we will have a sign application for Planet Fitness coming up. And you'll get a report much like you did tonight. It'll just be about signs and you can also go over and familiarize yourself with the location and where these things would be going, but it would be very similar to where the Aldi sign is, just right over next to it, franchise style sign. So we'll have that discussion. Let's see, moving down the street. For old business, I believe that's everything until you get down here to Robinson Village, which is a different development than the one we just talked about. Robinson Village is the townhomes on Washington Street that Van Meter is putting in. Those are to the west side of Haymarket Baptist, so everyone I think by now is probably pretty familiar with them. They're wrapping up on their third set of townhomes. We call them a stick, so the third stick of townhomes will be turned over here very soon, and they're hoping to complete the rest of them where the weather turns for the winter. So that'll be coming up very soon on finalizing that. And that is everything for old business. unless you guys have any questions.
Couple of questions. Have you had any capacity to work on the signs for the town hall?
No,
Okay.
but since we have another sign application coming up, I will flag it to get it updated.
We had previously discussed signage that would go over the entrance here and also above the police station. And the chief had some ideas he wanted us to look at in terms of incorporating the logo, the police logo into the signage. So I know you got a lot going on Emily, so I appreciate that. So, and then with this is probably his new business. We'll ask anyway. I talked to you earlier about, is there a way to reach out to the Zizios family about their two structures and the Pardos? A lot of greenery growing all over. The Pardo house is the one that's the blue building right up against the street on Washington Street with the sort of painted and boarded up if before Haymarket Day, if there's a way. So the Pardo building has not been approved for demolition. We do have a demolition by neglect ordinance. And so some of the work that you saw done on that house was through the demolition by neglect ordinance. The two other structures, even when they're approved, demolition permits are approved for a year, but they still have to maintain the property until the demolition's done. So, Emily, if you have time, if we could reach out to them to at least clean it up before Haymarket Day, I would appreciate it. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. Any other old business questions? Okay. New business items. Did you pass one out there? Okay. Kim passed out a stapled item. I apologize, it's not in the agenda. We kind of thought about it a little bit after the fact. So previously, when we had the DMV Select here at Town Hall, we had DMV signs to the left of our front door when you enter into the building. We now have a little bit of a blank space there and some holes that we were actually thinking about trying to provide the public with a message board that we can post our agendas, notices for public notice, public hearing things. We could also post any announcements, closures, etc. So we're looking at putting in this style of a message board. We're going with something that just was simple, kind of blended in the best it could, silver border with a gray felt board. We do know the fabric, I'm sure when the sun beats on it all day, will get, faded over time, but we can, replace as necessary that felt board. But this is our idea for just getting more information, being a little bit more accessible when we're not here on what's going on, the different meetings and notices. We just wanted to bring it up to the ARB. If you guys like the design, if you would prefer to see something different style. We'll check the lighting when we go out. We do have one light right above the town hall door, so it should be relatively bright enough. I don't think most people are going to come up at 10 o'clock at night to read it, so. True.
Would you want it any larger, or is that like the ideal size?
We would measure, this is kind of the ideal size and idea of what we would maximize there, but we can always measure and see if it needs to be bigger to
that's
fill the
fine.
space.
Cool. I see no objections with it, so.
Okay. If everyone's good with it, maybe Marshawn, if you want to kind of give a directive to staff to proceed with ordering.
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't. About how to do this, so.
Typically, we would just say, I give a directive to town staff to proceed with the message board without objection.
As stated by Emily.
So moved.
So moved. Any objections? Nope.
No.
Okay, please proceed.
Another new business item, we will have a business come for our next meeting as well that is looking to do a white picket fence sign modification and a siding modification to their business on Washington Street. It is M&M Exteriors. They are located, as you look at Aroma Wine Tasting, they're located in the Brick Rambler to the left of it. So we will be hearing that application, and they're right there on Washington Street. Are there any other questions for new business?
No? Anybody
No.
else?
Okay.
Planning Commission, we voted for vice and new chair. And we talked a little bit about the comp plan, and are we having a joint meeting next month?
We are not having a joint meeting with council. We're just going to hold the public hearing for the Planning Commission, and that's for an administrative type cleanup to our zoning ordinance based on a requirement that is from DEQ regarding the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act. So we need to put, it's about 6 plat notations in our subdivision section of our zoning ordinance that we're missing. They're going to go under the preliminary plat requirements in the subdivision section, as well as the final plat requirements in the subdivision section. And that's all highlighted and on the agenda packet for the Planning Commission, so we'll advertise that public hearing in the next week or two. It'll go out, and it'll be held on October 17th at 7 p.m.
Pretty much it.
Those are big ticket item.
Okay, council updates. If you haven't heard already, Haymarket Day is next month. So,
If you'd like to volunteer.
yes, we could use volunteers, even though I'm no longer in Longstreet Commons. Still talk to you guys about doing the vendor parking. So, Longstreet, we used to get all the residents, a couple of us together, we do the vendor parking, so.
I'm
Ben's already
count-
committed.
I'm counting on you guys this year.
You can do it this year.
Awesome.
I get weekends off now.
If
Yay.
anybody else would like to volunteer, Emily has a number of jobs, and I believe Aaron is in charge of the overall event this year, right?
Yes.
Okay. So anything to know about Haymarket Day other than sort of the same sort of elements?
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody who had asked us, since they're doing all the building, where are people going to park?
So parking we'll have available at our off-site lots with the free shuttle service that'll bring everybody up into town. Otherwise, we encourage, if you live in town, to walk up and enjoy the event, get that physical activity in. There are other locations, public parking on streets and stuff, but we just ask that everybody take guidance and look at signs and not get towed that day. Don't park where you know you shouldn't be parking. But we'll have those lots and shuttles.
Okay, thank you.
Still having the parade, having the beer and wine gardens, having the vendors along Washington Street, food vendors here near Town Hall, so.
We'll have some great local musicians that are coming out. We will have for our beer gardens this year, we have a fun collection of local breweries and wineries that'll be joining us, so that'll be nice to kind of celebrate people who are right here local to our area, including 2 breweries that are now located in the town. One is True Vi, and that's at QBE building. And then we have a second one opening, Great Maine Brewery, which will be by Next Level Fitness and behind the McDonald's in the Sheets area. So they'll also be joining us this year, so, yeah.
So since July, a couple other board items, or council items, the council did decide not to move forward with coming up with an arrangement to continue to use the ball fields at QBE. There was a proffer that talked about sort of set up a series of steps that needed to be taken if the town was interested in leasing or otherwise acquiring those fields. But it was not a arrangement that was particularly beneficial to the town, so we moved away from that. So you may see a future development plan that comes in and looks at redeveloping that site. The council did have a meeting about a surplus. We are in a unique financial situation, given the CARES Act funding, the COVID funding, the, what's the big, ARPA funding, which has positioned us to put a significant investment in infrastructure. So the big projects we're looking at is the sidewalk across the town park. There's also a master plan for this property that improves the parking and circulation and landscaping. And then there's also a project looking at reusing or replacing the park building with either a meeting space or a public restroom space for folks that are patronizing the park. So there was a discussion about how those projects could be funded. There's a combination of ARPA funds, the fairgrounds, and the Van Meter homes all are required to provide cash contributions per unit for police and schools and parks. And so we have some of those monies coming in. But the Finance Committee came up with a proposal to provide a surplus of about $250,000, which would pay folks back for their real estate taxes. So I think towns were around 300, single families were around 400, and those council decided on that, voted on that to approve the surplus refund, and those will be coming out in October, November. So, and then the rest of the monies that are available will go into funding the rest of those projects. The sidewalk project, I believe, is going out for contract for design or for build, both? For design. Engineering services. So hopefully we'll continue to move forward on that. So, any questions on town council doings? And then we have a little thing called an election coming up in November. So if you can encourage your friends and neighbors to come out and participate. Right now, it is a sort of a full slate. There's no contenders there's not more candidates than positions on the council, but still encourage folks to come out and vote and do your civic duty. So please talk to your friends and neighbors about it. I am going to talk to the council about putting more information out about that ahead of the election. It used to be that the elections were in May. The town, or no, the state legislature switched that to November, so that aligns with the state and federal elections. So. Yes, Emily, I'm sorry.
I had one more item. This weekend at the farmers market, if you guys are coming up, Officer Chip will be singing and providing music, so it might be fun to check out if you
Really?
haven't heard him.
I did not know he sang.
Man of many talents.
So. Okay, I did not have anything else. Before we do an adjournment, thank you both. Thanks, Stacy. Thank you, Ben, for stepping up. I like to joke we've sort of had the usual suspects over the years, so it's nice to get some new faces and new energy. So any questions you have about this, please don't hesitate to ask. Emily's a great resource. Kim's a great resource. Other folks on the ARB are a great resource. So what I typically do is I'll call Emily ahead of time and just sort of ask some questions and answers about what's on the agenda, what her thinking is, and we'll disclose that. We'll say we've spoken before. So feel free to stop by. I think we ask is that if we do arrange, that we just sort of call ahead of time and give those guys a heads up to make sure they have availability to meet with us. So happy you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Want a second? Second? Okay. Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor or all against, nay. The motion will pass 5-0.